Well, I know that you're going to find this hard to believe, but when I was a teenager, I was not this calm, collected, Jesus-filled person that you see standing before you today. But then again, some of you might wonder if I ever changed from that. Anyway, as a teenager, I challenged authority. I challenged nearly every kind of authority. I was a challenge to my teachers. I was a challenge to my Sunday school teachers. I was a challenge to my parents. And I was a challenge to my pastor, who also happened to be one of my parents. I remember being threatened on more than one occasion with military school. I was sent to the principal's office for not tucking in my shirt. I was grounded for running away from home. Nearly everywhere I went, I challenged authority. In my mind, I was the boss. I was the one in charge. Well, thank goodness I grew out of that, thanks to marrying Linda and becoming a father and being drafted into the Army. Although I have to admit to you that when somebody comes up to me and says, "You have to do this," there's a little bit of that inside of me still that says, "Oh, and you're going to make me?" Now, don't raise your hands. But how many of you out there sort of relate to that just a little bit? Sort of maybe that's your story in a way too? Today is the last Sunday of the church year. Next Sunday, it's going to be Advent, where we begin again the cycle of Jesus, the story of Jesus. We begin with his birth and his living among his disciples, his death, his resurrection, and his ascension. And then we spend about half of the church year looking at the church through the lens of his disciples and through Jesus. And it all culminates with today, Christ the King. Now, as Americans, our ancestors fought long and hard to rid ourselves of a king, didn't we? We came to this country, our ancestors came to this country, many of them, to escape kings. And we are the beneficiaries of those battles that went on. So when I talk about Christ the King, I wonder what that really means. You know, I would guess there are parts of having a king that would be okay. A king provides leadership. A king has to protect his subjects. A king administers justice. Now, like a new president, oftentimes kings were inaugurated with an oath. Now, the oath of kingship was one way to remind new kings of their official responsibility. Newly crowned English kings swore to defend the Catholic Church. Of course, that was before Henry VIII. To maintain peace in the realm, to oversee the administration of justice, and to uphold any laws chosen by the kingdom. Newly crowned Swedish kings swore to defend the law, to rule justly, to maintain the peace, and to serve as protectors of the poor. Not so bad. But then there's that other side of kings, the "I am the king and you have to do whatever I tell you" sort of attitude. You see, kings had the power of life and death. King Henry VIII left the Catholic Church and started the Anglican Church so he could get a divorce. King David sent Uriah into battle so that he would be killed, so that he was able to marry his wife Bathsheba. King Hoshea was the last king of Israel. He was a traitor to his people, and they put him in prison. That's the last we ever heard of him. So what does it mean then that we call Christ our King? Well, maybe one way to think about this kingship is to look at it through the eyes of C.S. Lewis. Now, Lewis was a British novelist, a poet, an academic, a medievalist, a literary critic, an essayist, a lay theologian, a broadcaster, a lecturer, and a Christian apologist. He was many things. In 1949, he wrote the first of a series of books called The Chronicles of Narnia. Anybody have heard of them? Probably some of you have. The first one was entitled The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Now, the story begins with 4 children who are playing in their uncle's house, and they find this old wardrobe, and they open it up, and they walk into it, and they walk through it, and they find themselves in a new land, the land of Narnia. And as they enter this new land, they discover that it is under a spell. of a wicked witch. It is a depressing land. It is dark. It is dingy. Lucy, the youngest of the four, says that in Narnia, under the witch, it's always winter, but it's never Christmas. Now, if you've read the stories or you're familiar with them, you know that they are an allegory. Narnia is the earth, the emperor is God, the witch is evil, and Aslan, the lion, is Jesus. And so the children hear rumors that Aslan, the great lion, is soon going to return to the forest. He's been gone for a long, long time. And so they devise a plan to overthrow the witch. But it gets sort of chaotic because one of the children, Edmund, commits treason, and he actually joins the side of the witch. And the entire country falls deeper into the witch's spell. Now, when Aslan does return, he frees Edmund from the clutches of the witch. But there were repercussions. Edmund's freedom came at a price, as we're about to see. There was a speech that Aslan made that we did not show it in there, but basically what he was saying is the witch didn't know that before time began, there was a special saying that went on. Though the witch knew deep magic, he said, there is a magic that's deeper still, so she does not know. Her knowledge only goes back to the dawn of time. If she could have looked just a little bit further back into the stillness and the darkness before time dawned, she would have read that there was a different incantation. She would have known that when a willing victim is committed, who has committed no treachery, was killed in a traitor's stead, the table would crack, and death itself would start working backwards. Our King, Christ the King, is like Aslan, willing to die in our stead. He did die in our stead, willing to accept the punishment that we deserve. And by doing that, he's made everything right with God, the creator of all, the one who was there before time began. Our King, Christ the King, is not about subjecting us to his whims or demanding more than we have to give. Our King does not show partiality to one subject or another. Our King treats each and every one of his subjects as if they were sons and daughters, because that's what we have become. Our King offers us the goodness of his kingdom. Our King, Christ the King, offers us life everlasting. Why would we not want him as King of our lives? Amen.